The Scottish Chiefs by Miss Jane Porter. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Shirley Ellen. The Scottish Chiefs. Chapter 1. Scotland. Bright was the summer of 1296. The war which had desolated Scotland was then at an end. Ambition seemed satiated, and the vanquished, after having passed under the yoke of their enemy, concluded they might wear their chains in peace. Such were the hopes of those Scottish noblemen who early in the preceding spring had signed the bond of submission to a ruthless conqueror, purchasing life at the price of all that makes life estimable, liberty and honour. Prior to this act of vassalage, Edward I, King of England, had entered Scotland at the head of an immense army. He seized Berwick by stratagem, laid the country in ashes, and on the field of Dunbar forced the Scottish king and his nobles to acknowledge him their liege lord. But while the courts of Edward or of his representatives were crowded by the humbled Scots, the spirit of one brave man remained unsubdued. Disgusted alike at the facility with which the sovereign of a warlike nation could resign his people and his crown to the hands of a treacherous invader, and the pusillanimity of the nobles who had ratified the sacrifice, William Wallace retired to the glen of Ellerslie. Withdrawn from the world, he hoped to avoid the sight of oppressions he could not redress, and the endurance of injuries beyond his power to avenge. Thus checked at the opening of life in the career of glory that was his passion, secluded in the bloom of manhood from the social haunts of men, he repressed the eager aspirations of his mind, and strove to acquire that resignation to inevitable evils which alone could reconcile him to forego the promises of his youth, and enable him to view with patience a humiliation of Scotland, which blighted her honour, menaced her existence, and consigned her sons to degradation or obscurity. The latter was the choice of Wallace. Too noble to bend his spirit to the usurper, too honest to affect submission, he resigned himself to the only way left of maintaining the independence of a true Scot, and giving up the world at once, all the ambitions of youth became extinguished in his breast, since nothing was preserved in his country to sanctify their fires. Scotland seemed proud of her chains. Not to share in such debasement appeared all that was now in his power, and within the shades of Ellerslie he found a retreat and a home, whose sweets, beguiling him of every care, made him sometimes forget the wrongs of his country in the tranquil enjoyments of wedded love. During the happy months of the preceding autumn, while Scotland was yet free, and the path of honourable distinction still open before her young nobility, Wallace married Marion Braidfoot, the beautiful heiress of Lamington. Nearly of the same age, and brought up from childhood together, reciprocal affection had grown with their growth, and sympathy of tastes and virtues and mutual tenderness made them so entirely one, that when at the age of 22 the enraptured lover was allowed to pledge that faith publicly at the altar, which he had so often vowed in secret to his Marion, he clasped her to his heart, and softly whispered, "Dearer than life, part of my being, blessed is this union that mingles thy soul with mine, now and for ever." Edward's invasion of Scotland broke in upon their innocent joys. Wallace threw aside the wedding garment for the cuirass and the sword, but he was not permitted long to use either. Scotland submitted to her enemies, and he had no alternative but to bow to her oppressors, or to become an exile from man amid the deep glens of his country. The Tower of Ellerslie was henceforth the lonely abode of himself and his bride. The neighboring nobles avoided him, because the principles he declared were a tacit reproach on their proceedings; and in the course of a short time, as he forbore to seek them, they even forgot that he was in existence. Indeed, all occasions of mixing with society he now rejected.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?